Past decade in China, the government has been rolling out a lot of subsidies to try to get the electric vehicle industry off the ground. At the beginning, they also had a bit of a struggle because consumers really weren't that interested in these vehicles. So the subsidies actually attracted a lot of ride-hailing businesses to get going. They would buy a whole fleet of these electric vehicles and use them to act as taxi services. And these ride-hailing businesses also relied a lot on those subsidies. So after a few years, Beijing started to slash these subsidies, and that hit the cash flow of these ride-hailing companies. They couldn't survive, and those that folded left behind all of these graveyards of EVs that we're seeing now.
Yeah. So they were being used as these sort of taxis. Could they not have been adapted to be then used on the road by people?
A lot of these EVs were early stage models, so the quality wasn't that great. And the other big problem was that their driving range is usually between about 100 kilometers to 300 kilometers on one charge. And so I think for the average consumer, that kind of driving range isn't that satisfactory. And so the buyers really weren't that interested. And now a lot of automakers like Tesla and BYD have come up with really nice models that have much longer driving ranges. So these earlier models really don't have that much of a use now.
Yeah. So now they've just literally been dumped, have they, in cities across China?
Yeah, we found reports of at least half a dozen cities where these graveyards have been spotted. The two sites that my colleagues from Bloomberg News visited were in Hangzhou. It's a city that's known as a tourist attraction, but on the outskirts, you're finding these empty lots where a lot of these EVs are being sitting there gathering dust. And you're seeing a lot of these in Hangzhou because that city gave out a lot of subsidies, and that's what attracted a lot of ride-hailing companies to set up operations there. But unfortunately, these days, as those businesses went bust, that's where these EVs have ended up.
Yeah. You know, we hear about the sort of components needed for EVs, components that are sort of quite rare and wanted commodities. Is it possible that they could go in and sort of recover some of the parts that could go into other vehicles?
Yes, definitely. I think battery recyclers out there in China that are, looking to extract the really useful minerals that are in these EVs, especially metals that you find in batteries such as nickel, lithium, and cobalt, which are, just getting more and more expensive due to the demand. But there's also a legal quagmire with whether people can actually work on these EVs because they belong to companies that are probably bankrupt. So the ownership of these EVs and who takes responsibility for them aren't really clear. And so that's another challenge for people who want to come in and really try to salvage or recycle these EVs is the legal wrangling they might have to go through to take care of these EVs.
Yeah, that is interesting. How do people in those cities feel about this wasteland where these cars have just been dumped?
Yeah, I've seen reports where some of the villages where these EVs were dumped, the villages, they didn't have a say, and these EVs just showing up kind of almost overnight outside their doorstep. They actually probably don't even know who to ask to get rid of these EVs. It wasn't until media reports that started coming out that really put the pressure on the government to get rid of these EVs. But a lot of people have described these as eyesores, and if you're seeing these out there, you're probably thinking that's a lot of waste that's just sitting there outside.
Absolutely heartbreaking. So more generally, though, are people in China adopting EV technology and EV cars?
Yes, actually, for the most part, they are. And that probably started happening after 2020 when Tesla came into the market and kind of kickstarted a whole trend of better built EVs with longer ranges. That's actually very attractive to consumers. So there's just been a stunning growth of electric vehicle adoption in China in the past few years. So some people would actually say that these EV graveyards are kind of an odd monument to how far China has come in EV adoption.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well, let's hope something happens with them at some point in the future. Great to talk, Linda. Thanks so much.